In a land touched by the Mediterranean Sea, a realm known as the Kingdom of Israel emerged, a land we now roughly identify with the modern state of Israel. The historical context of this region was varied, from Canaan and Phoenicia to Palestine, Yehud Medinata, Judea, and Syria Palestina following its destruction by the Romans in 136 DE. According to biblical tales, this land derived its name from Jacob, also known as Israel, a significant figure in Hebrew history. This region was colonized by Abram, later known as Abraham, developed by his son Isaac and grandson Jacob. As legend has it, Hebrew general Joshua led the conquest of the land around 1250 BCE, following the exodus from Egypt under the guidance of Moses. The first appearance of Israel as a cultural entity is found in the stele of the Egyptian pharaoh Meremptah, 1213 to 1203 BCE. This inscription speaks of Israel lying devastated, bereft of its seed, hinting at a people rather than a kingdom. The mention of Israel on an Egyptian stele celebrating victory over the Libyans remains a topic of scholarly debate. Around 1080 BCE, the Israelites established a monarchy in the land and developed a culture with influences from earlier civilizations. This era was preceded by significant literary, technological, and scientific developments, primarily in Mesopotamia and Egypt. Artifacts from ancient Palestinian sites reveal that the Israelites inherited a rich and sophisticated civilization. This interpretation of history contradicts the traditional belief that the Israelites entered Canaan, imposing their culture through military conquest. The kingdom eventually split into the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah after the reign of King Solomon, c. 965 to 931 BCE. In 722 BCE, the Assyrians destroyed the northern kingdom, dispersing its people, giving rise to the legend of the lost 10 tribes of Israel. Judah met a similar fate in 598 to 582 BCE, when the Babylonians invaded, deporting influential citizens. The Persians, following their conquest of Babylon, returned the Israelites to their homeland in 538 BCE, holding the region within their empire until Alexander the Great's arrival, 356 to 323 BCE. After his death, Ptolemy I and the Seleucid Empire took control of the region until around 168 BCE, when the Israelites, led by the Maccabees, revolted. This revolt led to the establishment of the Hasmonean dynasty. In 63 BCE, Rome conquered the region. Periods of unrest due to foreign rule persisted until the Bar Kokhba revolt of 132 to 136 CE, leading to Jerusalem's destruction and the region's renaming as Syria Palestina by the Roman Emperor Hadrian. According to the biblical book of Genesis, Abraham led his people to Canaan as instructed by his God. This journey marked the beginnings of the Hebrew culture, which eventually led to their enslavement in Egypt. Their liberation came at the hands of Moses, who guided them back to the land of Canaan. This land had been promised to the Israelites by their God. Joshua, Moses' second in command, continued the journey, leading the Israelites to victory over the native people and dividing the land among his followers. This biblical narrative and the military conquest of Canaan, as recorded in the Bible, has faced challenges from modern scholars. They argue that the historical accuracy of these events is doubtful and suggest that the Israelites likely assimilated peacefully with the native population, thus challenging the biblical narrative of a military conquest. These alternative views are grounded in archaeological evidence and extra-biblical documentation, suggesting that the region was more of a melting pot, composed of diverse elements living under various political and religious circumstances, ultimately forming the basis of the later kingdoms of Israel and Judah. In a bygone age, Israel flourished into a united kingdom under the visionary rule of King David, a legendary figure who succeeded Saul, the first king of Israel. David's reign, spanning from around 1035 to 970 BCE, marked a transformative period when various tribes rallied under his single leadership. A key milestone in David's rule was his choice of Jerusalem, a Canaanite city, as the capital. Legend holds that he relocated the revered Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem. The Ark, believed to house the living presence of God, turned the city into a vital political and religious hub. David harbored grand plans of constructing a magnificent temple to enshrine the Ark, yet it was his son, Solomon, who would bring this vision to life. Under Solomon's rule, Israel attained its zenith as narrated in the Bible. Solomon fostered alliances with neighboring kingdoms, including Tyre, Egypt, and Sheba. His reign also witnessed the rise of remarkable architectural projects that transformed Jerusalem into a grand, opulent city. The pinnacle of these endeavors was the construction of the first temple, while the reigns of Saul, David, and Solomon, especially the latter two, have been traditionally celebrated as a golden age marked by unity and prosperity. Scholars have pointed out economic challenges, as outlined in the biblical account. These difficulties forced the cession of cities to the Phoenicians and, eventually, Solomon's policies led to Judah's separation from the kingdom after his demise. Following Solomon's rule, Israel split into two distinct kingdoms. The northern region, known as Israel, established its capital in Samaria, while the southern kingdom of Judah made Jerusalem its capital. These two entities alternated between alliances and conflicts, but they never again achieved the same level of strength and wealth as during the reigns of David and Solomon. Despite their common heritage, the kingdoms of Israel and Judah evolved in their own unique ways, driven by their separate rulers and circumstances. The kingdom of Israel experienced periods of prosperity under the reigns of kings like Omri, Ahab, and the subsequent dynasty led by Jehu. The archaeological record and biblical narratives provide evidence of this prosperity, although the rivalry between Israel and Judah remained a consistent source of instability. During Ahab's rule, Israel gained recognition as a major military power, notably through the stele inscription of Shalmaneser III of Assyria. Shalmaneser III marveled at Ahab's ability to field a substantial army, consisting of over 2,000 chariots and 10,000 infantry. However, modern scholarship has contested these numbers. By the time of King Hezekiah of Judah, Judah had eclipsed Israel in power. In 722 BCE, the Assyrians, led by Sargon II, captured the kingdom of Israel, leading to the dispersal of the Israelite population as part of Assyrian policy. This event gave rise to the legend of the lost 10 tribes of Israel. Meanwhile, Judah maintained its national identity but lived under Assyrian dominance. Jerusalem alone withstood the Assyrian onslaught, fortifying itself under King Hezekiah's reign. Hezekiah prepared the city to endure the Assyrian siege of 703 BCE through ambitious construction projects like the Siloam Tunnel and Broad Wall, still visible today. After this period, Judah became a vassal state, paying tribute to the Assyrians. The tide shifted with the fall of the Assyrian Empire in 612 BCE, orchestrated by a coalition led by the Babylonians and Medes. The Babylonians seized the region, ravaged Jerusalem, and razed the temple in 598 BCE. The Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar II subsequently deported the aristocracy, scribes, and skilled craftsmen to Babylon in an episode known as the Babylonian Captivity. Further Babylonian campaigns from 589 to 582 BCE brought about the destruction of the kingdom of Judah. The Persian Empire, under the rule of Cyrus the Great, overtook Babylon. Cyrus allowed the Jewish people to return to their homeland around 538 BCE. The ruin of their cities and the forced exile from a land they believed was divinely promised caused the Jewish clergy to reassess their religious beliefs. This period marked a critical juncture in the history of the Jewish faith. Before a significant turning point in their history, the people of Israel held a henotheistic belief system. Despite the general portrayal in the Bible of unwavering monotheism, traces of the worship of other deities, including Asherah, Baal, and Utu Shamash, lingered in the culture. The tribal desert god, Yahweh, emerged as the supreme deity during King Saul's rule. The connection with Yahweh was built upon a quid pro quo principle, where people sought favor from Yahweh through devotion, expecting protection and support in return. This mutual relationship defined their faith. However, the Babylonian captivity marked a pivotal moment in the evolution of Israelite religion. When the Babylonians devastated Jerusalem and exiled its prominent citizens, the religious leaders sought an explanation for why God seemed to have abandoned them. They concluded that their failure to exclusively worship Yahweh had led to their suffering. This marked the beginning of a strict monotheistic belief system. The Second Temple period, spanning approximately from 515 BCE to 70 CE, was named after the construction of a temple on the site of Solomon's temple, destroyed by the Babylonians in 598 BCE. During this era, Judaism, as we know it today, began to take shape. The period marked the birth of the synagogue, the emergence of rabbinical schools, and the canonization of Hebrew scripture. Subsequent reforms during and after the Jewish-Roman wars continued to shape the faith. The Persian Empire governed the region until the conquest by Alexander the Great's armies in 334 BCE. In the wake of Alexander's campaigns, the region of Judea witnessed the introduction of Hellenistic beliefs and cultural values. However, opinions regarding Hellenization diverged among the Jewish population, leading to a significant cultural and religious divide. After Alexander's demise in 323 BCE, the region, once part of the Kingdom of Judah, passed to Ptolemy I, who also ruled Egypt. However, it later fell under the control of the Seleucids of Syria in 198 BCE. The Seleucid king Antiochus IV Epiphanes' edicts aimed to enforce Hellenistic religious practices in the region, including the Temple in Jerusalem, which ultimately sparked the Maccabean revolt around 168 BCE. The Maccabean revolt, culminating around 160 BCE, resulted in victory for the Jewish forces and the rededication of the Temple, a celebration remembered during the festival of Hanukkah. While traditionally seen as a rebellion against foreign occupation and religious oppression, the revolt's origins may have been more complex, rooted in a civil war between those who embraced Hellenism and those who resisted it. The Maccabean victory paved the way for the establishment of the Hasmonean dynasty, marking the last independent Jewish kingdom in the region. The dynasty pursued expansionist policies that led to conflicts with the Nabatean kingdom on their border and internal strife for control of the kingdom. Rome took notice of the wealth and instability in the Nabatean kingdom and the Hasmonean dynasty. In 64 BCE, Pompey the Great seized Nabatea and, in 63 BCE, intervened in Hasmonean affairs. This intervention initiated a power struggle with Julius Caesar. Although Hasmonean rulers retained their thrones, the involvement of Rome signaled the end of the independent Jewish kingdom. In 37 BCE, Rome established King Herod the Great as the ruler, effectively turning Judea into a client state. Despite Roman occupation, the Jewish people resisted, leading to the First Jewish-Roman War, 66 to 73 CE, also known as the Great Revolt. It concluded with the destruction of Jerusalem and the siege of the mountain fortress of Masada. After a desperate last stand, the defenders of Masada chose to take their own lives rather than surrender, symbolizing the end of resistance. The Kitos War, 115 to 117 CE, marked a second significant revolt, resulting in more destruction and population displacement. The most pivotal of these revolts was the Bar Kokhba revolt, 132 to 136 CE. Emperor Hadrian's decision to build a new city, Aelia Capitolina, atop the ruins of Jerusalem, with a temple to the god Jupiter on the Temple Mount, ignited this conflict. Simon Bar Kokhba led the revolt, which, although initially successful, ultimately met Roman suppression. The consequences were immense, with countless deaths and widespread dispersal. Following the rebellion, Hadrian banned all Jews from the region on penalty of death. In the wake of this devastation and diaspora, the ancient kingdom of Israel ceased to exist until the modern state of Israel's establishment in 1947 to 1948 CE. The connection between the ancient kingdom and the contemporary state remains a subject of debate, sparking ongoing controversy and discussion.